Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our program, Sharing the Spirit of America. My name is Julie Zazada. I'm the Executive Director here at the Cedar Lake Historical Association, and we welcome you on the occasion of the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding. Today, we will present a public reading of the Declaration of Independence and unveil the Captain Andrew W. Laud Heroes Gallery Wall of Honor permanent exhibition in the museum at Lassen's Resort. We are honored to have the Patriot Guard Riders here with us today, forming the flag line. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it. And now we have members of Boy Scout Troop 129 here to present the colors.
Color Guard, attention. Audience, attention. Color Guard, forward march. Color Guard, halt! Prepare to post the colors. Please place your hand over your heart and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to our flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color Guard, post the colors. Color Guard, reassemble. About, face. Color Guard, forward march. Color Guard, halt. Color Guard, at ease. Audience, at ease.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Pledge of Allegiance was written by Francis Bellamy and introduced into the classroom in October of 1892. In 1954, it was modified to what we just recited today. The Continental Congress was formed on September 5th, 1774 to begin formal consideration of severing ties with Britain. It was prompted by the increase of British opposition and King George's openly preparing for war against the colonists, as well as Thomas Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense. The Declaration of Independence was proposed by a resolution introduced by Richard Henry Lee of Virginia on June 7th, 1776. 3 days later, a committee was formed to draft an outline for the case for independence. 5 members, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Robert Livingston, and Roger Sherman were appointed to the task. The resolution to declare independence passed on July 2nd. John Adams wrote to his wife Abigail on July 3rd, "The second day of July 1776 will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America." On July 4th, the Continental Congress unanimously ratified the Declaration of Independence. The 4 parts are the preamble, which explains the rights of individuals and that the powers of government come from the consent of the governed. The list of 27 grievances, prior attempts at reconciliation, and the formal ending of the allegiance to the British Crown. The public was summoned to the Pennsylvania State House through handbills and town criers. On July 8, 1776, in Philadelphia, crowds gathered at noon, and Colonel John Nixon gave the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. The Cedar Lake Historical Association proudly presents this community reading of our founding document.
In Congress, July 4, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America, when in the course of human events it became necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in indirect object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of people.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from, without, and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws, for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone, for the tenure of their office and the amount of payment and their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislators. He has effected to render the military independent and of a superior to the civilian power. He has combined with others to subject us to jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and acknowledged by our laws, given his assent to the acts of the pretended legislation. for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they shall commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parties of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond the seas to be tired for pretended office offenses.
For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries
so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing
using the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws,
and altering fundamentally the forms
of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at the time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy,
scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages,
and totally unworthy the head of civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us. He has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Now we been wanting inattentions to our British brothers. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, and contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So thank you all for joining us in this public reading of the Declaration. So I want to thank you all again for coming out today. You know, in the museum world, we've been preparing and discussing how to celebrate and commemorate our nation's 250th for a couple of years now. And at the museum at Lassen Resort, we've placed several items from our military collection on display in our rotating exhibit room. It even includes some commemorative items from the bicentennial in 1976. But we also knew that we wanted to use this year to create a permanent exhibit that notes the two Revolutionary War veterans that are buried here in Cedar Lake. William Van Gorder served the Continental Army from 1779 to 1782. He's buried over in Meyer Manor Cemetery. And Obadiah Taylor served the 1780 to 1781. His gravesite, which used to sit atop a bluff on the northeast shore, is now across the street from MacArthur Elementary School. But this idea expanded to be more inclusive of the broader community, inspired by a beautiful display at another museum that was developed in gratitude to all who had served. We approached the family of Andrew Laud to see if they would be willing to help us to bring this exhibit to fruition. Andrew joined the Army National Guard after graduating from Hanover Central High School in 2010, completed basic training and earned a degree in criminal justice from Indiana University Northwest before he joined the regular Army. He followed in the footsteps of his paternal grandfather, who served in the military and was at Pearl Harbor when it was attacked. At one point during his military service, he worked in Texas doing border patrol. Andrew, who flew UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters, served in Afghanistan from 2017 to 2018 and was awarded the Air Medal. He was serving as a captain and company commander of HHC-6, 101st Aviation in Fort Campbell, Kentucky at the time of his death. The Laud family responded with heartfelt support when they learned that our exhibit would provide anyone from the community with an opportunity to honor the servicemen and women in their life. As John F. Kennedy said in 1963, a nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men that it honors, the men that it remembers. Throughout our history, brave men and women have risked and sacrificed their lives in service to our great country. They have served our nation with courage, honor, and distinction. Today and forevermore, we pay tribute to the enduring legacy of these men and women as we unveil the Captain Andrew W. Laud Heroes Gallery Wall of Honor.